Hey everybody, Kyle from Screams and Whispers here. Have another review for you today. We're actually starting a new series on the channel called the Solid State Review. And this is where I'm going to be reviewing different overdrives, distortions, fuzzes, boosts, different drive pedals, dirt boxes, if you will, in relation to how they sound coming out of a solid state rig. Now this actually came as a request from one of our viewers, and I wanted to follow through on that for him. And essentially this is just a review for the solid state guys. If you're looking at purchasing, one of these boutique pedals or things that I review on the site, you want to hear how it sounds through a solid state rig, so it's relative to what you are using at home. Great. Most reviews online are done by guys running through pretty expensive tube rigs. I myself generally do my reviews through a tube rig, but we're going to do some solid state reviews on here as well. I have an old custom Quad 100 rig that I'll be doing those reviews through, and you can see that here. So, the custom Quad 100, pretty generic solid state rig, going to be pretty relative to most of the other solid state rigs out there that you guys are running. Today we're going to line up three overdrive type pedals, the Favoretties Custom Shop Yellow Cab, and a couple from Stanley-Fx, the Classic Overdrive, and the Bluesman. In addition to that, something I'm going to throw in the mix as I show you those is the Gerhat tube driver. It's actually sitting up there on the top of that shelf. It is essentially a tube pre-boost kind of pedal. You can use it as a light overdrive as well, but more than anything it's a tube pre, and that's kind of the way that I use it. And I'm going to show you how throwing a tube pre in the mix gives you the ability to really increase your tone when going through a solid state rig, and essentially how that affects things. I find it a really useful tool for warming up a solid state rig. So we'll throw that Gerhat tube driver in there as well. Let's get to it. Solid state review number 1. Alright, so up first we have the Favoretties Yellow Cab Overdrive. Now if you find yourself interested in this one, want to get a further in-depth review of the pedal itself, you can find that on my channel. Just go look through that. Now the next thing I'm going to point out is the Gerhat tube driver. Now as I stated in the beginning, this is just a tube pre, and that's how I'm going to use it in this video. It does allow me to essentially add a 12AX7 pre that's inside of here to the signal chain. So I'm going to play the Favoretties, then add in the tube driver, and then if you want, with the tube driver, just as an added cool thing, you can flip over and add additional gain by going into a gain stage here. Actually, I'm sorry, here, to essentially just boost up the gain and add some drive to it. So we'll go into all of that as we go through it, but first up, the Yellow Cab. Alright guys, we're going to get into it. Here is my clean tone through the custom Quad 100 solid state rig. Now into the Yellow Cab. Alright, now we're going to jump into a little bit of just kind of sweeping through the knobs on the Yellow Cab and giving you an idea of the different range of tones you can get. Then I'm going to kick into the Gerhat tube driver, show you what it's like pulling in some tube pre after the Favoretties Yellow Cab.
Thank you.
So there you have the Favoretties Yellow Cab Overdrive, and then the Gerhat Tube Driver Tube Pre. And you can see kind of how that'll warm up your tone on this. And I'm going to kind of go through this with every one of the pedals we review here in the subsequent ones, so I won't explain it again. But essentially, just one more time, you're turning this on here, so that you turn on the Clean Tube Pre here. Then you can kick in the drive side over here, which gives you all of your presence and gain adjustments here. Can get a range of tones out of that, obviously, but the biggest thing is just Tube Pre warms up your sound on a solid state rig using anything. Just a cool device to check out. So I'll kind of throw that in the mix, but I'm really going to be focusing on the actual pedals with the Pre. Favoretties Yellow Cab Overdrive, lots of different options. Got compression, tone sweep, and a little bit of which side of the transistor you're on here with the the SI and shape switch here. There's also an internal presence switch in this guy as well, so you can get a range of tones, but it cleans up pretty nicely. It's very, very, very warm. Even through a solid state rig without the Tube Pre, it's very warm. So check out Favoretties. We're going to move on to a couple other pedals. Alright, now moving on to the Stanley-Fx Classic Overdrive, built in England. This is a TS808 variant style overdrive pedal. So we're going to kick into it and see how it does on solid state. Alright, now let's throw the Gerhat in the mix. Alright, so there you have it, the Stanley-Fx Classic Overdrive TS808 variant through a solid state. Now, sounds like, you know, you would kind of expect a tube screamer too, except this one I feel like is a little bit more open, especially on the solid state. It even feels more open than on a tube amp. But you also see how well it responds to a tube pre. This pedal especially, and most TS808 variants, are going to respond really well to a tube pre. They're more designed with going into a tube amp in mind, and they just really warm up and respond and get really dynamic when going through a tube pre. Great pedal on its own through solid state, really like it through a tube pre though. Alright, up next, another one from Stanley-Fx. This one's the Bluesman. Obviously, as the name would state, it's a pedal designed to play blues. But it is a medium gain overdrive, it's probably the best way to explain it. But actually I found that this one in particular responds really well to a solid state amp. I'm actually finding that I prefer it on a solid state amp. But we're going to go through the whole thing and show you how it's going to respond to the Gerhat, just like everything else. So here we go. Alright, so here you can pretty clearly see how a tube pre is not always going to be the best thing for certain pedals. And this one, it actually starts to kind of overdo the low end. Gets a bit muddy when you go into that, because this is a very bassy pedal kind of to start with. Kind of a signature blues a little bit in a way. You know, in this case, I actually kind of prefer the tone. It actually pulls some of the grit out going through this. So I prefer the tone of this by itself. But that said, most of the time, tube pre is going to do you really good. This particular instance, probably not the best thing. This pedal, great on a solid state. Really digging the tone. So, that's going to wrap up the solid state review number 1. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.